Hello and welcome back to Calm AF. I'm Kristen Finch. This is episode 327, and we are in part 3 of our internal clutter series. Now, if you haven't listened to parts 1 and 2, go back and listen to those when you get a chance. But I will do a quick recap and then we will dive into part 3. Part 1, I introduced this concept of internal clutter and that we have internal junk drawers, mental, emotional, and energetic junk drawers. Now, everybody knows what a junk drawer is. You have a kitchen junk drawer probably right now, this very moment, that is filled with things that you don't know what to do with, that you haven't figured out if you're going to need again. So things like old menus or dead batteries, ketchup packets, like just things that get shoved in the drawer and you close it because you might need it later or you might need it for something, whatever. We know what that is. Now, we also have these, but invisible ones, internal junk drawers that are holding our mental, emotional, and energetic clutter, the things that we don't know what to do with, the things that we think we should probably hold on to, even if they were from like 20 years ago, but we might need it later. That is the internal junk drawers idea. In part 2 of our series, we dove into the mental junk drawer. This is where you shove all of your old stories and your limiting beliefs and the thoughts that you hold about yourself and pull out to refer to because you're not sure if you should still have it, but you probably need to hang on to it. Today, we are going to dive into your emotional junk drawer. And I want to give you a heads up. It might feel a little overwhelming as we start talking about how much clutter is actually in the emotional junk drawer. But have no fear. I don't think there's any purpose in working really hard to clear out our clutter. That's not what works for most people. That's not what we're going to do here. But I do have a very efficient and impactful way to clear this emotional buildup. So let's dive in. So the first thing we should probably talk about is how to know if you have a full emotional junk drawer. Like, do you have an emotional junk drawer that is very filled with clutter? Because remember, we can't see it like we can see our kitchen junk drawer, but there will be signs. There will be very clear signs. So some signs that your emotional junk drawer is overflowing. Maybe you have this experience where you'll just be sitting there and these unexpected big emotions will just hit you out of nowhere. So you are just driving to work and all of a sudden you're sobbing and you're like, I don't know what happened. I was just sitting there and all of a sudden I was sobbing. That's a sign that you may have a lot of clutter. Feeling a big reaction to something that usually you don't have a big reaction to. So maybe you're in a work meeting and there's something that annoys you or something that happens at work that's annoying. And instead of feeling annoyed, you feel like level 10 rage, like burn it down rage. And that feels disproportionate to what's actually happening. The other one that I think happens a lot that people don't recognize as emotional clutter is how much emotional clutter you put in and it's just very brief and then you shove it down. And I think it often happens when people are scrolling. So if you think about, you go through like Instagram or TikTok, wherever you scroll, and each thing that you are engaging with is, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute. And for each of those things, there's a feeling that you feel because that's what happens. When we think something, we have a feeling because of it. And you feel like the first thing you see is some horrific, tragic news. And so you feel that feeling. And then in the next picture, it's, someone that you look up to having what seems like the most perfect life that anyone ever had. And you have feelings about that. And then the next video, it's like 20 dogs on a bus that are, heading to doggy daycare together and you feel feelings about that. But it's like that whiplash. And every time it's like a feeling comes up and it goes down and in. It comes up, goes down and in. There's no time to process it. It all just gets shoved in the vessel, in the junk drawer. That's some signs that you are probably dealing with some buildup of emotional clutter. Now, I want to start by telling you, because what you're going to realize is that you probably have a ton of emotional clutter. If you think about your body as like an empty, hollow vessel, and every time you've ever felt a feeling that you didn't process, that you just put in the junk drawer, and it's just been like building up, your whole body, right, at this point is filled with unprocessed emotional clutter. And when we start thinking of it this way, it's going to feel overwhelming. And you might even feel like, well, how am I ever going to do anything about that? I don't have time to, brush my teeth. I barely have time to, take care of myself. Now I need to go through this emotional junk drawer that I've been building for 40, 50, however many years. No, you don't. So I'm going to give you that first off. Getting rid of the emotional clutter is not as overwhelming as you think it's going to be. But I also want to make sure that you know that there's nothing wrong with you for getting here in the first place. Basically, you have been just doing exactly what you were taught to do when you had a feeling, when emotions came into your body. You were basically a rule follower, okay? So unless you were around extraordinarily emotionally intelligent adults, when your emotions came into your body as a child, no one sat you down and taught you like, when sadness comes into your body, you just feel the feeling of sadness. What we're taught about our feelings is how to fix it. If you feel sad, what do you need to do to not feel sad? If you feel angry, what do you need to do to not feel angry? You need to fix it. So anytime an emotion came up, you either approached it as something to fix, something to get rid of, something to ignore, something to shove down. You learned emotions were just annoying things that seem to get in the way and cause problems. They got in the way of your goals. They got in the way of your relationships. They got in the way of everything. And they were a signal of weakness or that you've done something wrong. If you feel sad, clearly you've done something wrong. So again, an emotion comes up, you were told fix it or get over it. No use crying over it. Also, how many times we were told we were wrong about our feelings. So you're feeling scared and you're told there's nothing to be scared of. Don't feel scared. Oh, okay. So I guess when this feeling comes up, it's wrong. And so it just needs to go back down into the junk drawer. Oh, you're feeling sad? Don't be sad. There's so many things to feel happy about. Feel happy. Don't be sad. When you're sad, I'm sad. I don't want you to feel sad. It makes me sad. So, okay, then I guess I'll just shove it down with the rest of them. Even good feelings would get shut down. You accomplished something. You were feeling proud. You wanted to celebrate. Don't do that. People are going to think you're bragging. Don't be too much. People are going to think you think you're all that. Don't be excited. If you're happy about something that you got, that means someone else is going to be unhappy because they didn't get it. We are just so backwards on how we are teaching our kids, everyone, about emotions. We're praised for being easygoing, which all that really meant was that you were good at not making other people uncomfortable with your emotions. That's all. So I wanted to start with that because I think sometimes people think that they've done something wrong. No, you have done exactly what you were taught to do. But if you want to not feel heavy and overwhelmed and exhausted all the time, we just have to learn a new way. And lucky for you, I have a very simple way. Before we talk about that, my simple tool to declutter your emotions, we're going to just open your emotional junk drawer and pull out a few things, some common things that are oftentimes shoved in the emotional junk drawer. So one of the things that I think you want to keep in mind is not necessarily a feeling, but your feelings manual, we'll call it, your emotional origin story. So through your life, when you were born, even before, it may have become pre-programmed, there was a set of rules with how your family of origin or the people you are around deal with emotions. So maybe your rules for emotions were we don't feel them because other people are uncomfortable, or we feel them, but we explode them all out and then we never talk about it again. Or happy feelings are okay, but not happy feelings are not okay. Rules that you have discovered or been handed for your whole life. I have to be strong for everyone. I can't ever fall apart. I can't ever be emotional or take the time to feel my emotion because everybody needs me to not have emotions. And so this is the manual that's sitting at the bottom of your emotional junk drawer, kind of like in your kitchen junk drawer, that manual for the microwave that's from 1984. And you're like, oh, I might need this later. No, that microwave is long gone. And these rules for you about your emotions, they're long gone, but you are still holding on to it. And that's what creates even more clutter being built up. Then we have all the different types of emotional clutter. You have your workplace clutter. Maybe it was your school clutter, frustration, because you were always working hard and, but you never felt valued, or no matter how hard you work, it seemed like you were never done, or no matter how hard you worked, no one ever appreciated it. Resentment, because you're the one doing all the things, and you shove them all down because you're the reliable one. Relationship emotional clutter. So think of all the relationships you've had in your life. That thing your friend said when you were 7 years old and it hurt your feelings, but you didn't want her to know that it hurt your feelings, so you shoved it down. That's still in there. That's still down there. It's just buried. Exhaustion from managing everyone else's moods and thoughts and opinions your whole life. And there's just so many types of emotional clutter. One of the biggest ones, and I don't want to spend a long time on it, but I think it doesn't get talked about enough, and that is grief. I think we have a lot, anytime grief shows up, we have no good ways of processing it, so we shove it down. We've also all been told how hard grief is, and I'm not saying it feels good, but grief is a feeling. Like every other feeling. So it might feel more intense, but it's the process of feeling your grief is the process of feeling any other emotion. I don't want to go on a side tangent here, but grief is something that takes up a lot of space in the emotional junk drawer. And I'm not just talking about death. When someone dies and the grief you have for a person, that is a big part, but I actually think people do a better job of actually processing that kind of grief. I'm talking about the grief for all the other things. The grief for the life that you thought you were going to have and you don't have. Or the dreams that you had for yourself that didn't work out, didn't go the way you wanted them to, or you never actually went for. That grief that just gets shoved down because you've moved on. The different versions of yourself as you take on new roles, as you go from this person to this person and your identity shifts, there is going to be a grief. You are losing the version of you that you used to be. And even though it's a good thing, maybe, it's still a grief. And I think there's a lot of that in our emotional junk drawer that we haven't dealt with. Now, we might think we've dealt with it because you've moved on, because time has healed. But moving on and processing are completely different things. Moving on maybe means that time has passed, you aren't thinking about it as much, you aren't feeling it as much, you've just decided not to think about it anymore. But processing means that you've actually felt the feeling and you've let it move through you. Moving on, the feeling is still in the drawer. Processing means you have released it. Now, I want you to think about if this body was a vessel that is just being filled, one emotional shoved down clutter on top of the next. I want you to think about what this is doing to you, right? This isn't just determining your mood for the day, like, oh, I'm feeling pretty full today, I'm in a bad mood. This is affecting literally everything. your entire energy, your capacity to just be a human. It's taking up so much space. It is draining your energy. It's weighing you down. Because again, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Just because you put a bill in a drawer doesn't mean that it's paid. It's still there. And when you're carrying decades of unfelt feelings, everything has to move through that clutter. Everything slows down. Think about what that might do to your immune system. Think about what that does to your ability to be present, to be rested, to have fun. All of this clutter, emotional clutter, mental clutter, energetic clutter, all of this clutter that you need to be sifting through every day just to operate at your baseline. Every conversation, every decision, it has to get through all this emotional buildup. And it steals your joy. There's no room. There's just no room for the joy that is also inherently occurring even alongside of the hard things that we go through. There's always both. Everything is both. It's the yin and the yang. It's the night and the day. It's the dark and the light. Everything balances out. But we don't get to see any of it if we're shoving it all in a drawer. So I know this is what I meant earlier when I was like, it might start feeling like, holy shit, like that's a lot of little pieces of paper I'm going to have to go through in this drawer. All these little emotions that I've shoved down. You don't need to go through every single thing and analyze it. One of my favorite tools, I think it's the most simple tool I've ever created. I think it's the most impactful tool when used consistently that I've ever created to do this work, to emotionally declutter, is the feelings room. Now, I'm not going to go into it in great detail here, but in a nutshell, what it is when a feeling shows up, you imagine yourself in a room. It's just you and the emotion. It's just you and the sadness. It's just you and the anger. It's not you and all the stories and the why did I get here, but what can I do to change it and how can I solve it? You and the feeling. You're not trying to make it better. You're not trying to go in the room with sadness and then transmute it into happiness. You're just going in there to feel sadness and then you come back out. And maybe you'll feel happy, or maybe you'll feel lighter, or maybe you'll feel neutral. The point isn't to make your sad become happy or make your anger become peace. It's to feel the feeling and release it from the drawer. I'm actually going to do another part in this series where we dive a little bit deeper into the feelings room instead of trying to get it all out there today. But the impact of this is so much bigger than you can even imagine. This is one of the things that my clients, my Calm AF Life group members, my private clients often tell me is that the transformation, who they are now versus who they used to be, feels so different, but it's not dramatic. And oftentimes it's like, I didn't even realize how different I am, that I am this next version of myself, until something happened that normally would have like set me off, triggered me. I would have been stuck in it. I would have been spiraling for weeks. And now, because I have created space, because I have been decluttering my emotional junk drawer, my energetic junk drawer, my mental junk drawer, I have space where I can just go ahead and feel the feeling very quickly, even the non-preferred feelings, and then release them. And I don't carry them around everywhere I go. This is why my clients feel like their whole lives are different, even though everything doesn't look that different. So I've been talking in the last few episodes about this new Calm AF Year program, which isn't really new. It's an updated Calm AF Life program that starts in September. Enrollment will be opening in August. You can get on the waitlist now, but what we're going to be doing is spending 12 weeks at a time diving into these different junk drawers, your mental clutter, your energetic clutter, your emotional clutter. We are going to be decluttering together at the pace of your nervous system, at the pace of your subconscious, and making sure that you aren't adding more back in. Now, if you're interested, make sure you're on the wait list because I'm going to be sending out details in the next couple weeks. But for now, what I want you to be doing is paying attention to in the moments where you notice that there is a feeling coming up. I want you to practice letting yourself just be with the feeling in the room, feeling the physical sensation, and then releasing it back out because the universe knows how to handle your emotions. It doesn't need you hoarding them or keeping them to yourself. It's going to go ahead and absorb it and transmute it into whatever it needs to do. You don't need to worry about that part, but you do need to relinquish the control. You do need to be the one to say, I don't need to take this resentment and shove it down with the rest of the resentment. I'm going to go ahead and let this one be released out so that I am free, so that I have the capacity to live the life that I want to live, to feel the way that I want to feel. So start now. Start decluttering your emotional junk drawer. One feeling at a time, one breath, actually 3 breaths. Breathe, breathe, breathe. One moment of not being afraid of the feelings, the physical sensations that show up in your body. All right? Make sure you get on the Calm AF Year wait list. You'll get more information soon. Next week, we are diving into the energetic junk drawer, all the invisible stuff you are picking up from other people, other people's moods, your environment, your physical clutter, all of it. All of the energy that doesn't belong to you but is absolutely mucking up your energy. That's what we're doing next time. Thanks for listening. I will see you next week.